Welcome back to the Quantum Soul,
Yes.
where we like to take a deep dive into, the rabbit holes of information
That's right.
that we stumble upon.
Yep.
And today we're going to be looking into ufology and paranormal phenomena.
Awesome.
And we've got some really incredible sources lined up. We're going to be looking at, firsthand accounts, the latest research.
Very cool.
So, ufology, man, it's really kind of blowing up right now.
It is. It is. There's definitely been a surge of interest in recent years.
Yeah.
It's like we're seeing it everywhere.
It is. It's more mainstream now,
Absolutely.
It's not just like the fringe, people in their basements with tinfoil hats anymore.
Right. It's in the news, it's official reports, and there's this growing feeling that something big is happening.
It does feel like we're on the verge of some major revelations.
Yeah, for sure.
But before we get into the current state of ufology, I'm kind of curious about your personal journey into this field.
Sure.
You mentioned starting back in 2017. What kind of sparked that initial interest?
Yeah, so it really all began with this book called UFOs in the Serra da Beleza by Marco Petit, and it detailed numerous sightings in this remote area of Brazil.
Oh, wow.
And I was so intrigued,
Yeah.
I decided I got to see this for myself.
So you packed your bags and headed to Brazil.
Exactly. Yeah, I had to experience it firsthand.
What was your first experience like in the Serra da Beleza?
So my first trip was in June of 2018 during a new moon.
Okay.
And statistically, there's an increased chance of sightings during a new moon, right?
Right.
Because there's no moonlight to obscure visibility.
Right.
And wouldn't you know it, I saw this massive luminous orb just hovering over the mountain.
Wow. What was going through your mind at that moment? Was it everything you hoped for?
It was surreal. I mean, I half jokingly said aloud for it to, come closer.
Mm-hmm.
And within minutes, a smaller orb, almost like a miniature version of the first one, appeared behind me and started moving towards me.
Wow.
And there was no sound, no wind, just this strange, silent movement.
That's wild. So you obviously grabbed your phone?
Of course. I mean, my instinct was to film it.
Yeah.
Right, capture this incredible thing I was witnessing. But the moment I did, both orbs vanished.
Poof, gone.
Yeah, just like that, disappeared.
Do you interpret that as them reacting to you trying to film?
Well, it certainly made me realize that this wasn't just random lights in the sky. There seemed to be some intelligence at play.
Yeah.
That experience, it really fueled my passion, to study these phenomena further, and it eventually led me to create Project Vigil.
Yeah, you've mentioned Project Vigil before. Can you, for those who might not know, can you kind of remind our viewers what it's all about?
Sure. So Project Vigil is essentially a research initiative. We install cameras and sensors in, UFO hotspots for constant monitoring.
Right.
The goal is to capture clear and compelling evidence of these phenomena.
That's you're creating a UFO surveillance network.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's awesome. Now, before we dive into more of your personal experiences, I want to touch on a topic that often comes up in discussions about UFOs, the chupacabra.
Mm-hmm.
This creature that's kind of captivated people's imaginations for decades.
Absolutely.
What's the deal with that?
Well, it often gets dismissed, right, as a modern day myth.
Yeah.
But if you look back, reports of similar animal mutilations, with those precise cuts and the lack of blood, actually date back to the 1800s in the United States.
Right.
It's this recurring theme throughout history,
Yeah.
And I think it really speaks to a deeper question about how we interpret the unknown.
That's a really interesting point. It's not just a recent phenomenon.
Exactly.
These stories have been popping up for centuries.
Right.
It seems like we've always been fascinated by the unexplained, the mysterious. And as you mentioned, it's not isolated to just one region. There are similar tales and legends from all over the world.
Precisely. If we zoom out a bit,
Yeah.
and look at the bigger picture, we see these patterns, right?
Yeah.
In folklore and legends globally. Think of the boitata in Brazil, fiery serpent.
Oh, wow.
Or the Min lights in Australia. These are all culturally specific interpretations,
Yeah.
of what might be very similar phenomena.
So are you suggesting that these events are somehow shaped by our cultural and religious beliefs?
It's definitely a possibility worth considering. How we perceive and interpret the unknown, it's often influenced by our existing belief systems. And this leads to this really interesting debate between what's called mystic ufology and casuistic ufology.
Yeah.
Two very distinct approaches to understanding the phenomenon.
Okay, break that down for us. What's the difference between those two approaches?
So casuistic ufology, that's all about the tangible stuff, right?
Right.
The sightings, the physical evidence, the nuts and bolts of the phenomenon. It tries to apply like a scientific lens to the mystery. Mystic ufology, on the other hand, that delves into like the spiritual, the consciousness-based aspects. It's looking at potential interdimensional connections, you know?
So it's like one is more about like the hard data, the evidence.
Right.
And the other one is more about the kind of the spiritual, the metaphysical aspects.
Exactly.
It seems like, drawing a clear line between the technological and the spiritual is becoming increasingly difficult, wouldn't you say? Especially with cases like the Varginha ET incident in Brazil, which had multiple credible witnesses, including doctors and military personnel, reporting encounters with strange beings.
The Varginha incident is a perfect example, of how those lines can blur. You have reports of a crashed craft, unusual beings, and even rumors of a missing videotape.
Oh, really?
Supposedly capturing the entire event. So it really begs the question, what are the implications of revealing the full truth about UFOs?
Right.
Like, could our current societal structures, could they handle it?
That's a big question.
It is.
I mean, we've seen like how the controlled release of information about like historical events like the Kennedy assassination led to all sorts of speculation and conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
So could the truth be too disruptive,
It's possible.
to our understanding of the world?
It's a valid concern. And this is precisely why, the U.S. government has been working on this taxonomy, right?
Right.
To classify the potential origins of UFO phenomena. It might be a good way to kind of like break down the possibilities into more digestible pieces.
So what are some of the categories in this taxonomy for those who are new to this? Can you give us like a quick overview?
Sure. So you have the extraterrestrial category, which refers to beings from other planets or solar systems. And then there's this really interesting concept of cryptoterrestrials, beings that have been like hiding on Earth.
Oh, wow.
For a very long time, maybe even like before human civilization.
That's mind-blowing.
It is.
What are some of the other possibilities?
Another major category is the interdimensional, referring to beings that exist in a different dimension than ours, but are capable of like interacting with our reality.
Ooh.
Right. It's a concept that overlaps a lot with discussions of consciousness and like the nature of reality itself.
Yeah. So it's not just about physical beings traveling through space.
Right.
It could be something far more complex.
Absolutely.
And dare I say, metaphysical.
Yeah. Then there's the interstellar or solar system category, which encompasses objects or entities that originate, within our galaxy or solar system.
Okay.
But not necessarily from Earth.
So not aliens from like another galaxy, but maybe something from, say, a nearby planet or moon.
Right. And then, of course, you have the prosaic category, which includes those, more down-to-earth explanations like meteors, weather balloons, or advanced but human-made technology.
Those tend to be the go-to explanations for skeptics, right?
Right, yeah. And then finally, we have the metaphysical category, which is where things get really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
This includes phenomena that kind of defy our current understanding of physics, so things like ghosts, spirits, consciousness-based entities.
Okay, so we've got aliens, interdimensional beings, ghosts. It's like a whole buffet of the unknown.
It is, yeah.
You mentioned earlier the ultra-terrestrial hypothesis. Can you explain what that is?
Sure.
And how it kind of fits into all of this?
So ultra-terrestrials are basically entities whose current home is Earth, but their origins might be, extraterrestrial, interdimensional, something else entirely. But they are deeply connected to our planet, which could explain their apparent interest, in monitoring human activities, particularly those involving like nuclear technology and water sources.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
They're kind of concerned about like our, messing up the planet.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, they're keeping an eye on us.
And it makes me think of the 1978 Radar Du Gamma case, which involved like simultaneous UFO sightings.
Oh, yeah.
Poltergeist activity.
Yeah, that was a fascinating case.
And shadow beings. It's like, what?
Multiple military personnel witnessed these events.
Right.
They saw UFOs. They experienced, electrical systems malfunctioning. Yeah. Objects moving on their own, and even like shadowy figures lurking in the area.
So it's like a scene straight out of like a science fiction movie.
It was a wild series of events.
Did the official investigation come up with any explanation for what happened?
Well, the official conclusion was like, it wasn't any known aircraft.
Right.
There was no evidence of hostile intent.
Okay.
And it couldn't be dismissed as an optical illusion.
Right.
Yeah.
But ultimately, there was no definitive explanation.
So they just kind of said, we don't know.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow, that must have been like quite an experience for those involved.
I can't even imagine.
It really makes you question what we know or think we know about the world.
It does. It challenges our whole framework of understanding.
Yeah.
And when you consider, like, the theory that some UFOs might be controlled by consciousness rather than conventional technology, things get even more mind-boggling.
I'm curious to hear more about that. Like, what evidence is there to support this idea?
Well, there are a few really intriguing aspects of UFO behavior that, point to this possibility.
Yeah.
They're like seemingly playful interactions,
Yeah.
the way they appear and disappear instantly,
Right.
the manipulation of perception reported by witnesses. All these things suggest something beyond our current, understanding of physics. It's like they can manipulate reality itself.
Yeah. And some researchers believe that consciousness might be the key to how they do it.
That's a pretty profound concept.
It is.
It challenges our entire paradigm of what's possible.
It does.
But before we delve further into this idea of consciousness and its connection to UFOs, we want to take a moment to thank you, our amazing viewers.
Yes, thank you.
For tuning in. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, and share this video so we can continue exploring these mind-boggling mysteries together.
Yeah, we really appreciate your support. It makes this whole thing possible.
And stay tuned, because in the next part, we'll be diving deeper into, consciousness, personal experiences,
Right.
and the potential dangers of interacting with the unknown.
It's going to get even more interesting, so don't go anywhere.
Yeah!
Yeah, it's really fascinating, isn't it? To think that these phenomena might be operating outside of our known laws of physics.
It's wild to even consider. And, you mentioned Jacques Vallée. His work's been, considered groundbreaking, in the field of ufology.
Absolutely.
Can you kind of, elaborate on his theories and why they're relevant today?
Sure. So Vallée, he kind of challenged that simple idea of extraterrestrial visitors,
Right.
suggesting that, maybe these entities operate on a level of reality that, we barely grasp.
Yeah.
And he even drew these parallels, right, to folklore and mythology, hinting at, maybe these beings have been interacting with humans for centuries.
Wow.
Maybe even millennia.
That's a really intriguing concept. So it's not just about aliens and spaceships. It's about something much more, profound.
Right.
Something that intersects with our history, our beliefs, and maybe even our consciousness.
Exactly. And he even proposed this, control system hypothesis.
Oh, what's that?
Where he suggests that maybe, these entities, they might be orchestrating these encounters for their own purposes, which we may not fully understand.
Like, I don't know, a cosmic puppet show or something.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
With us as the unaware audience.
Right. And then you have researchers like John Keel,
Okay.
who, with his concept of ultra-terrestrials, proposed that maybe, these entities might be native to Earth.
Oh, okay.
But operating on a different, dimensional frequency, not bound by our physical laws.
So we've got Valley suggesting a control system.
Yeah.
Keel proposing ultra-terrestrials who are essentially Earth natives.
Yeah.
Both ideas kind of challenge that, the conventional alien hypothesis.
Right. And what's really fascinating is that, both Valley and Keel, they saw this connection between UFO sightings, paranormal phenomena, and even folklore, suggesting that, maybe they're all just different expressions of the same underlying reality.
Yeah. It's this big multifaceted I don't know, tapestry or something.
Yeah, it's like a multi-layered puzzle, and we're just, we're starting to piece it together.
So it's so hard to even wrap your mind around all this stuff, but it's also really exciting.
It is.
It opens up so many possibilities. It makes you wonder if our reality is just one layer of this much larger multi-dimensional existence.
It certainly does. And maybe the answers we seek lie not solely in, technology or scientific models, but within our own consciousness.
And that brings us back to this idea of consciousness playing a role in these encounters. You mentioned earlier the possibility of, UFOs being controlled by consciousness rather than technology.
Yeah.
How can we even begin to understand something like that?
It's definitely a challenging concept.
Yeah.
But there's this growing body of evidence
Yeah.
suggesting that maybe consciousness might be a fundamental force in the universe.
Wow.
Just like, gravity or electromagnetism.
Right.
And our current understanding of, technology, it's limited by our three-dimensional perception of reality.
Okay.
But what if these entities exist, in higher dimensions where consciousness is the primary force?
So instead of building spaceships and using like gadgets,
Yeah,
their technology is like an extension of their consciousness.
exactly.
It's almost like their thoughts are the technology.
Yeah, a way of like manipulating reality itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then like our attempts to understand them through the lens of our current technology, that might be inherently limited.
Yeah.
We need to expand our understanding of consciousness.
Yeah.
To really grasp like the nature of these encounters.
It's so humbling to think about like how much we still don't know
It is.
about ourselves and about the universe. It's almost like we're, I don't know, like trying to understand a computer by looking at the wires and the circuits, but not realizing that there's software running everything.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It really highlights the importance of like, keeping an open mind and being willing to like question our assumptions.
For sure. And speaking of questioning assumptions, you've had some like, incredible firsthand experiences.
I have.
Particularly in the Serra da Beleza and the Amazon rainforest.
Right.
You've mentioned the challenges of like capturing these phenomena on camera.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. One of the like most frustrating things about researching UFOs, right, is their elusiveness.
Yeah.
Even with like professional equipment,
Yeah.
getting clear, compelling footage can be incredibly challenging.
It's almost like they know we're trying to observe them
Right.
and they can like choose to reveal themselves or remain hidden.
It certainly feels that way sometimes, yeah. I've had experiences where I've seen like something incredible with my own eyes, but when I try to film it,
The camera like either malfunctions or, it captures nothing but a blank screen.
do you have any theories about like why that might be happening?
Well, some researchers believe that these entities might be able to like manipulate electromagnetic fields,
Okay.
which could explain, why electronic devices often malfunction
Oh, interesting.
during UFO sightings.
Uh-huh.
Others suggest like maybe it's a form of psychic blocking
Okay.
where their consciousness interferes with, with our ability to perceive them through like technological means.
Like it's messing with our tech.
Yeah, it's like they're jamming our signal in a way.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But despite, the technical challenges, the psychological impact of these encounters, that's undeniable.
Oh, absolutely. And can you share an example of like a particularly impactful encounter you've had?
Sure. One of the most memorable experiences I had was in the Serra da Beleza, near that 13-meter cross I mentioned earlier.
And I was taking like pictures of the mountain, and I noticed this massive luminous orb at the base of the cross.
Oh, wow.
And so I grabbed my binoculars to get a closer look, and that's when I saw them.
So what did you see?
There were these tall, shadowy beings, almost completely black, lurking behind the cross as if they were like observing me.
That's creepy.
It was definitely unsettling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I fumbled with my camera, right? Like desperate to film them.
Yeah.
But they started moving around the cross in these strange swirling motions.
Right.
And every time they passed in front of the cross, it was like they absorbed the light. They became even darker.
Oh, wow.
Even more menacing.
That must have been terrifying. Did you feel threatened?
It was definitely unsettling.
Yeah.
I felt this mix of like fear and fascination. I wanted to like get closer to understand like what they were.
Yeah.
But there was also this primal instinct telling me to like stay back.
Did you manage to capture any footage of them?
Unfortunately, no. They were incredibly difficult to film. Like every time I tried to focus on them, the camera would either lose focus or the battery would like suddenly drain.
They were messing with the camera.
It was as if they were like intentionally making it difficult for me to document their presence.
That's crazy. And it really makes you wonder, like, what are their intentions? What is their purpose?
Right. That's the million-dollar question. Like, are they simply observing us?
Yeah.
Are they trying to communicate? Or is there something more to it? Something we haven't even considered?
These are questions that have like plagued humanity for centuries, probably since the first time somebody looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone.
Yeah.
And speaking of looking up at the stars, let's shift our focus to another region rich in UFO lore, the Amazon rainforest.
Ah, the Amazon. It's a place of, incredible biodiversity, ancient wisdom, and as it turns out, like a hotbed of UFO activity.
Yeah, you've spent a lot of time there working with the indigenous communities.
Like have.
What have you learned from them about these phenomena?
Working with the indigenous people of the Amazon has been one of the most enlightening experiences of my life.
That's amazing.
Yeah. They have this deep connection to the land, this profound understanding of the natural world, and a very unique perspective on these phenomena that's very different from, the Western scientific approach.
Can you elaborate on that? Like what's different about their perspective?
They don't see these entities as extraterrestrials in the traditional sense.
Right.
They view them as beings that are part of the rainforest, interwoven with the natural world, just like the trees, the animals, the rivers.
Yeah.
They have stories and legends that have been passed down through generations.
Wow.
And these stories often depict these beings as guardians, teachers, or even tricksters.
It's like they have a much more integrated view of these phenomena,
Yes.
seeing them as part of the ecosystem
Right.
rather than something separate or alien.
Exactly. And they have this deep respect for these beings, recognizing their power and their potential for both good and harm.
You mentioned that they have stories about these beings being tricksters. Can you share an example of one of those stories?
Sure. So one story that was shared with me involved a group of hunters who were deep in the rainforest, right?
Yeah.
And they came across this clearing where they saw this strange glowing object hovering above the ground. And they were curious, so they approached it. And as they got closer, they heard this laughter coming from the object.
Yeah.
And it was this mischievous, playful laughter.
Whoa.
And it seemed to be beckoning them closer.
What happened next? Did they go closer?
They did. And as they got within a few feet of the object, it suddenly vanished, leaving them standing there in the middle of the clearing, feeling foolish and confused.
That's crazy.
It was like they were being toyed with.
Yeah, that's a great example of how these encounters can be both intriguing and disorienting.
Absolutely.
It's like they're playing with our perceptions,
right?
Testing our boundaries.
Yes, and those stories, they highlight the importance of approaching these encounters with respect and humility.
You mentioned earlier that these entities could be, potentially dangerous.
Yes.
Have you ever felt threatened during any of your interactions with them?
There have been times where I've felt a sense of unease, a feeling that I was being watched or tested.
Right.
And I've heard stories from indigenous people about encounters that were much more frightening, involving abductions, missing time.
Oh, wow.
Even physical harm.
That's definitely unsettling. It seems like there's a wide spectrum of experiences ranging from, the playful and curious to the downright terrifying.
It's true. And I think it's important to acknowledge, both ends of that spectrum.
Yeah.
We can't just, focus on the positive encounters and ignore the potential dangers.
And you've spoken about the importance of, respecting these entities and approaching them with caution. What are some practical steps that people can take to protect themselves, if they believe they're encountering something unusual or unexplained?
That's a great question. I think the most important thing is to trust your intuition. If you feel uncomfortable or threatened, remove yourself from the situation. Don't try to engage or provoke whatever you're encountering.
That's good advice for any potentially dangerous situation, I think.
Exactly. And if you're interested in exploring these phenomena, do your research, learn from reputable sources, and always proceed with caution and respect.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up this part of our discussion, I wanted to touch on another fascinating aspect of UFO lore. The recurring symbol.
Oh, yeah.
And patterns that people have reported seeing on these objects.
The symbols. It's like they're pieces of a cosmic puzzle hinting at a deeper meaning or message that we're still trying to decipher.
It's like they're trying to communicate with us.
Right.
But in a language we're still learning to understand.
Yes.
And you've been actively working to decipher that language.
I have.
Haven't you? Especially through your research in the Amazon.
The Amazon rainforest is, it's a place of like incredible mystery and ancient wisdom, and working with the indigenous communities there has been such a privilege.
Yeah.
And they've shared some truly remarkable stories.
Yeah.
About their interactions
Yeah.
with these phenomena.
Can you share an example of one of those stories, like something that really stood out to you?
Yeah, one story that left a deep impression on me involved an indigenous elder who claimed to have been like temporarily paralyzed while attempting to shoot a UFO with his shotgun.
Wait, he tried to shoot a UFO? What happened?
So, according to the elder, right, as he was about to pull the trigger, he felt this like intense surge of energy coursing through his body.
Yeah.
And he was like completely immobilized.
Wow.
And he described the UFO as this large luminous disc that hovered silently in the sky.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And after the elder was paralyzed, the UFO it expanded.
Okay.
And then it collapsed in on itself and vanished.
Wow, that's an incredible story.
It is.
It speaks to the power these entities seem to possess, and it highlights the potential dangers, of approaching them with aggression.
Absolutely.
Or fear.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that we're dealing with something far beyond our current comprehension.
You've spoken before about Project Vigil.
Yeah.
And your efforts to document these phenomena using cameras and sensors. Have you had any success, capturing footage of UFOs in the Amazon?
We've had some, intriguing results.
Yeah.
But it's been a constant challenge.
Yeah.
The rainforest environment is dense, and the weather conditions can be like so unpredictable.
Right.
which makes it, really difficult to get like clear recordings.
But you haven't given up, I assume.
Not at all. No.
Yeah.
We've managed to capture, some compelling footage of unexplained lights and objects.
Right.
But often like the most compelling evidence comes from like, firsthand accounts and the testimonies of those who've experienced these phenomena directly.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning the Samauma tree, a sacred tree, in many Amazonian cultures.
It is.
You've suggested that it might play a role in these encounters.
Right.
Can you tell us more about that?
So the Samauma tree, it's revered by indigenous people as a symbol of connection, wisdom, and the interconnectedness of all things. And it's believed to be this portal between realms.
Wow.
A point of access for spirits and other entities to enter our world.
So you're suggesting that UFO activity might be connected to these trees, that they might be drawn to these like energetically potent locations.
It's a possibility that we're exploring. We've noticed, a correlation between UFO sightings and the proximity of these trees.
Wow.
And the indigenous people, they've shared stories about these trees being like gateways to other dimensions.
That's incredible.
It is. It's fascinating.
Have you personally experienced anything unusual near a Samauma tree?
I have.
What happened?
So one night, we were installing cameras, right?
Yeah.
Near a particularly large Samauma tree.
Right.
And our equipment started malfunctioning.
Really?
Yeah. Batteries drained like really rapidly. Cameras shut down unexpectedly.
Wow.
And we even heard like these strange static-like noises.
Oh, wow.
Coming through our radios.
That's definitely strange. Did you see anything unusual?
We didn't see any UFOs that night.
Okay.
But the feeling of being watched was like really intense.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the air felt thick with energy.
Yeah.
And there was this palpable sense of like something unseen observing us.
It sounds like those trees hold like a lot of power and mystery.
They do, and they remind us that there's still so much that we don't understand about our world,
Right.
About the nature of reality itself.
And speaking of things we don't understand, you've also mentioned the potential dangers of attempting to like summon or evoke these entities.
It's a controversial topic, but one that deserves like careful consideration.
Okay.
Some people believe that through certain rituals or practices, it's possible to like attract the attention of these entities.
Okay.
However, the motives and intentions of these beings are largely unknown.
Right.
And there's a risk, right, of attracting something malevolent or harmful,
like opening a door to the unknown.
Exactly.
Not knowing what might step through.
Right. And that's why it's so crucial to approach these practices practices with caution, with respect, and a deep understanding of the potential consequences.
Yeah. It's a reminder that knowledge is power, but it also comes with responsibility.
Absolutely. And as we delve deeper into these mysteries, it's essential to remember that we're not just observers.
Right.
We're participants, right? Our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions, they all play a role in shaping the reality we experience.
That's a profound thought. It suggests that we have more agency than we realize.
We do.
When it comes to these encounters.
We do. And maybe that's the ultimate takeaway from our, exploration of ufology and paranormal phenomena. It's not just about what's out there.
Right.
It's about who we are,
right,
how we perceive the world and the infinite possibilities that exist within us.
Beautifully said. Yeah. It's a reminder that the truth is out there, but it's also within us.
It is.
And as we continue to explore, both, we might just discover that the universe is far more wondrous and interconnected
Absolutely.
than we ever imagined.
It is. And that's the beauty of this journey. It never ends. There's always more to discover, more to learn, and more to experience. And as we open our minds and our hearts to the possibilities, we might just find that the universe is whispering secrets to us all along.
I love that. If
they're almost like, whispers from the unknown. They're inviting us to explore these realms beyond our ordinary perception.
It's like they're trying to communicate with us.
Yeah.
But in a language we're still trying to learn.
Exactly.
To understand. And you've been actively working to decipher that language, haven't you?
Yeah.
Especially through your research in the Amazon.
Yeah. The Amazon rainforest, it's a place of incredible mystery, ancient wisdom, and working with the indigenous communities there it's been a privilege, And they've shared some truly remarkable stories about their interactions with these phenomena.
You've spoken before about Project Vigil and your efforts to document these phenomena using cameras and sensors. Mm-hmm. Have you had any success capturing footage of UFOs in the Amazon?
We've had some intriguing results, but it's been a constant challenge. The rainforest environment, it's dense.
Yeah.
And the weather conditions can be so unpredictable.
Right.
It makes it really difficult to get clear recording.
But you haven't given up.
Not at all. We've managed to capture, some compelling footage of unexplained lights, objects. But often the most compelling evidence comes from firsthand accounts and the testimonies of those who've experienced these phenomena directly.
Right. I remember you mentioning the Samauma tree.
Oh, yeah.
A sacred tree in many Amazonian cultures. You suggested that it might play a role in these encounters.
It might.
Can you tell us more about that?
So, the Samauma tree, it's revered by indigenous people as a symbol of, connection, wisdom, and the interconnectedness of all things. And it's believed to be this portal between realms, a point of access for spirits and other entities to enter our world.
So you're suggesting that UFO activity might be connected to these trees?
It's a possibility that we're exploring. We've noticed a correlation between UFO sightings and the proximity of these trees. And the indigenous people, they've shared stories about these trees being gateways to other dimensions.
That's incredible. It sounds like those trees hold a lot of power and mystery.
They do. And they remind us that there's still so much that we don't understand.
Yeah. Right.
About our world, about the nature of reality itself.
Speaking of things we don't understand, you've also mentioned the potential dangers of attempting to summon or evoke these entities.
It's a controversial topic, but one that deserves, careful consideration. Some people believe that, through certain rituals or practices, it's possible to attract the attention of these entities. However, the motives and intentions of these beings are largely unknown, and there's a risk, of attracting something, malevolent or harmful.
It's like opening a door to the unknown, not knowing what might step through.
Exactly. And that's why it's so crucial to, to approach these practices with caution, respect, and a deep understanding of the potential consequences.
Yeah. It's a reminder that knowledge is power.
It is.
But it also comes with responsibility.
Absolutely. And as we delve deeper into these mysteries, it's essential to remember that we're not just observers.
Yeah.
We're participants. Our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions.
Right.
They all play a role in shaping the reality we experience.
That's a profound thought. It suggests that we have more agency.
We do.
Than we realize.
Yeah. We do. And maybe that's the ultimate takeaway.
Yeah. Yeah.
From our exploration of ufology and paranormal phenomena. It's not just about what's out there. It's about who we are, how we perceive the world, and the infinite possibilities that exist within us.
Beautifully said. It's a reminder that the truth is out there.
Yes.
But it's also within us.
It is.
And as we continue to explore both, we might just discover that the universe is far more wondrous.
Absolutely.
And interconnected.
It is. And that's the beauty of this journey. It never ends.
Yeah.
There's always more to discover, more to learn, and more to experience. And as we open our minds and our hearts to the possibilities, we might just find that the universe is whispering secrets to us all along.
I love that.
Yeah.
And on that note, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into ufology and paranormal phenomena. A huge thank you to you for sharing your incredible knowledge, your experiences.
It's been my pleasure.
If you're ready to continue your journey into the mysteries of the unexplained, we have 2 incredible videos on the screen right now.
Yeah.
Click on the one that calls to you, and let's keep exploring together. Until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep your minds wide open. And, it's clear that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
And there's so much more to explore. And for our viewers, thank you for watching, for listening. We encourage you to continue your own explorations. Keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep those minds wide open. We'll see you next time.